I'm delighted to introduce the next speaker. We have a special address from the Right Honorable Sajid Javid. He was appointed as the Secretary of State for Business, Innovation and Skills in May 2015. He has been the elected Conservative MP for Bromsgrove since 2010. Sajid was Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport from April 2014 to May 2015. Previously, he was both the Economic and Financial Secretary to the Treasury. He was a member of the Work and Pensions Select Committee from June to November 2010. Before being elected MP, he worked in business and finance. Sajid worked in Chase Manhattan before moving to Deutsche Bank to help build its business in the emerging markets. Sajid left as a senior MD in the summer of 2009 to give back to the community through politics. A lesser-known fact, however, is that Sajid is not new to IIMA. During his stint at Deutsche, Sajid used to regularly attend campus to recruit the new cohort of graduates. And I can say he's all too familiar with the competitiveness, vagaries, and emotions of day zero. Without further ado, please welcome the Right Honorable Sajid Javid.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Now, before I start today, I'd like to certainly thank the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, for inviting me here today. And as you just heard, that back in my financial days, it was part of my job to help recruit the next generation of talent and to find the brightest, the most innovative business brains wherever they may be. And that was why I became a regular visitor to the IIMA, partly because it's consistently ranked as one of the best business schools in Asia, if not the world, and partly because if you can make it past that common admission test, then you're going to find finance a walk in the park. Every time I went there to recruit, I'd bring with me members of the team, the recruitment team, that were always, the leads were the IIMA alumni. And one of them is here today, Vineet Sani. Where are you, Vineet? Is he here? He's outside, and that's not unusual for Vineet. And then also, so Vineet, Amit Bordia, Praveen Bandari, there were a huge number of friends that were alumni, and we'd always go in teams for recruitment. And I remember that one time I went, and we all went out for dinner afterwards after a very hard day recruiting. And you all know what that's like, you know, the so-called day zero. And that dinner was gonna be Deutsche Bank's dollar. So we could have gone anywhere. We could have gone to the finest restaurant in Gujarat. Could have gone anywhere we wanted to go. And I vividly recall Praveen, who was with me that day, and he said that we just had to go to this amazing place that he remembered from the time when he was a student there. And so we all piled into a taxi, and we headed off to a place called Vishala. Right? We ended up on this dark street, it was late at night, in front of what I thought was a quite uninspiring restaurant, I have to say. And above the door, there was a sign, and it said something about 100 rupees. I thought it was the cover charge or the admission fee, but it turned out to be the cost of the entire all-you-can-eat meal. And like I said, it was very dark, so I had absolutely no idea what the waiters were putting onto my banana leaf, but it tasted absolutely fantastic, and it was second only to my mum's cooking. And so I'd easily go back again, and best of all, the whole bill came to less than 500 rupees for all of us, so it was fantastic. Now, in 2010, as you just heard, I left banking to start a new career in politics. And I think I'm the only person who became a member of parliament because they wanted a job that was more popular with the public. Now, last year, I joined the cabinet for the first time as the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport. And not everyone was happy with that move. More than one critic asked, and I quote, What does this banker know about culture? At least I thought they said banker. It was great. It was a job that I ended up really enjoying, partly because culture, media, and sport is such a fascinating and important portfolio to have, but also because it made me the world's coolest dad. The Javid children, all four of them, they love my job, because when you have that portfolio, you get invited to all sorts of exciting things, whether it's theatre, it's football, it's rugby, it's the X Factor final, and and it always came with a +1, and the Javid children took full advantage of that. And that's why they weren't disappointed. They were very disappointed when I got my new job, which is as business secretary. And I've tried my best since I've been in this new job to make it up for them. And I've said, look, who wants a behind-the-scenes tour of the Low Pay Commission? And it's just that. Who wants to come to the European Competitiveness Council? And I still haven't heard back from them. But seriously, I was absolutely delighted when the Prime Minister asked me to take on this new department and become the business secretary, because it's happened at a time where once again I think Britain is truly open for business. But it's not been an easy ride for Britain to get here. The scale of the challenge that British business were facing 5 years ago. We had just gone through the deepest recession our country had seen in almost 100 years. We had, at that time, back in 2010, the biggest budget deficit since the Second World War, larger than any other G20 country. And we'd had a bank bailout, which just one of the banks turned out to be the largest bailout in the world, largest bank bailout of the world, just one bank over £50 billion. So it was a nation saddled with debt that was struggling to grow. So when we came to power back in 2010, we knew that Britain couldn't have a sustainable recovery without having a thriving private sector. And that's what we've been doing since then, working tirelessly in trying to support private business. Not by trying to pick winners, not by writing checks with taxpayers' money and hoping the investment pays off, but by giving entrepreneurs and innovators the climate and conditions they need in order to thrive. So we set about cutting red tape, giving entrepreneurs the flexibility and the freedom they need to run the companies that they want to, in the way they want to. We've cut corporation tax. It was 28% when we came to office back in 2010. It's 20% today, and in a couple of years' time, it will be 18%. So that these cuts so that you as business people, you can invest more of your money right into your business. And we've introduced tax cuts, for example, with what's called the national employers insurance contribution, so much so that we've taken almost 500,000 companies out of employees' national insurance contributions altogether. The British Business Bank, which is part of my department, has programs that have supported some 40,000 small businesses with over £2 billion of lending. We have an export promotion agency, which is very active around the world, including in India, for example, that's helping many British companies access new markets. We've just launched a new campaign called Exporting is Great that will help even more companies. Our Startup Loans program has provided entrepreneurs with more than 30,000 loans that are worth well over £150 million. Combining dedicated, innovative entrepreneurs with a pro-business, pro-growth government has really delivered results. Employment is up in Britain, inflation is down, and the British economy is growing faster than any of its major rivals. In fact, in 2013 and 2014, and projected this year by the IMF, Britain is the fastest growing G7 economy. In just 5 years, we've gone from record-breaking recession to record-breaking employment. There are more people in work today in Britain than at any other time in our history. In fact, over the last 5 years, the British economy has generated more jobs than the rest of the European Union put together, all 27 countries. Just last year alone, one city, Birmingham, generated more jobs than the whole of France. Despite this, we're not saying the job is done. We're not going to put our feet up and pretend that the hard work has been done. There's still so much more for us to do. So, for example, I have a bill going through Parliament right now called the Enterprise Bill, which is providing a whole new level of support for businesses, and then the heart of that is more and more deregulation. In July, the Chancellor unveiled a budget that was relentlessly pro-business, and tomorrow the Chancellor will make a fiscal statement, the autumn statement, that will also help to secure Britain's economic recovery. This is a government that stands behind business, not in its way. A government that is unashamedly pro-business and believes that successful businesses are an asset to be nurtured, not a problem to be dealt with. So it should come as no surprise that the UK has moved up now to 6th place in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business ranking. That's something I'm very proud of. But I was concerned to see that India, one of our closest friends, is down in 142nd place. That puts it behind countries like Sierra Leone, Ethiopia, even Pakistan. As we can see here today, India is home to some great entrepreneurs and some incredible ideas. But it can be a frustratingly difficult place sometimes to start and to grow a business. Barriers to doing business hamper domestic ambition, and they hurt international investment. They stop business leaders from fulfilling their potential, and they get in the way of job creation and can stifle economic growth. So when Prime Minister Modi visited in the UK this month, when he was here, I was delighted to hear that he wants to catapult India into the top 50 of that ranking, the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index. And I was even more pleased to discover that the UK is already hard at work helping to make this happen. Our High Commission in Delhi is talking to state and central governments about how the UK moved up the league table. We even have a representative on the Indian government's expert committee on the ease of doing business. The UK-India Business Council is working with the Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation to offer support and expertise. And the Great for Collaboration campaign is celebrating and promoting the enormous amount of business taking place between our two nations. India and Britain are two countries who boast not just a shared history, but I think a shared future. And events like this, I think, are key in making that future as bright as it can be. Bringing some of Britain's most exciting companies together with some of India's brightest young minds. It was the late management guru, C.K. Prahalad, who was an IIMA graduate, so I'm pretty sure some of you know what I'm talking about. And he once wrote, and I quote, "If your aspirations are no greater than your resources, you're not really an entrepreneur." He was absolutely right. True innovators are always pushing beyond what's comfortable. They're always looking for that next big idea, trying to improve what they've already created. The job of government isn't to tell them what to do or to insist that they head in a certain direction. The job of government is to open up roads, to remove barriers, and to build bridges, to do everything in its power to help entrepreneurs succeed, not to simply throw taxpayers' money at a chosen few and then hope for the best, but to create an environment in which business can flourish and innovators can succeed. This government's ambition, and my ambition, is to make Britain the best place anywhere in the world to grow and to start a business. And I want to invite everyone here today, alumni, innovators, entrepreneurs, investors, to come and join us in making that happen. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, a small gift, you said? Yes. All right.
If I may request the director of IIM Ahmedabad,
You also have the challenge at the beginning.
Professor Nanda.
Good banks, which are slow moving, so maybe you can kind of.
That's the hard part that we've done. So
and
it's
if you could present one of the mementos.
but it is cheaper. It's a few people, it's time, it's dedication, it's
Thank you very much. Great.
you need
Thank
to
you
be
very
able
much.
to-
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. So, good conference. Thank you.
So the next
you
sector
familiar
track
with
is
the
big data.
No.
With data sets growing exponentially, it has become ever more imperative to be able to extract value from this data. To discuss the place of big data in the future, I'd like to introduce you to the panel now.
Anna,
If I may request the panelists to come on stage.
Hi, Anna. Nice to meet you.
Hello, Ravi.
I'm just going to try and track down Josh.
Okay, so there is another person. Okay. Okay.
Cards, guys.
Our moderator
Get to know each
today
other.
is Arijit Sengupta. A BGP 1996 fellow alumnus Arijit is the founder of Antuit, a big data startup headquartered in Singapore, and serves as its CEO. Prior to this, he was an executive VP of financial services at WNS and also headed business development at IBM Daksh.
Yeah.
He has been an angel investor and operator of early stage and mid-market companies in analytics, education, and healthcare, which have scaled or exited successfully. Our next panelist is Jeffrey Horrell from Thomson Reuters. Jeffrey serves as the global head of content management, co-productions, events, reference at Thomson Reuters. Prior to this, he was a global head for deal, private equity, and private company content. He has been involved in the creation and commercial management of several content sets within Thomson Reuters, where he has been since Jan 2005. Our next panelist is Srikanth Velmakani of Fractal Analytics. A fellow alumnus, PGP 1998, Srikanth co-founded Fractal, a company specializing in predictive analytics and decision sciences in Feb 2000, and has been the CEO since 2006. Prior to this, he has consulted several major market players in predictive analytics for risk management and marketing effectiveness. After campus, Srikanth worked with ANZ Investment Bank and ICICI. We have, as a final panelist, Rex Davis of dunnhumby. Dr. Davis serves as the country head of India for dunnhumby. Rex leads the global analyst and technology teams responsible for storing and interpreting customer data and insights for clients around the world. Prior to his current role, Rex served as VP of Insights USA and was responsible for leading the Insight Solution Group, providing leadership in the development of data modeling techniques.
So I'm going to ask you to start.
Prior to dunnhumby, Rex spent several years in marketing, customer loyalty, and analytics at Colesmire, one of Australia's major retailers.
And then
Welcome
maybe
to
I'll
stage.
start off with a general
It's all over to you,
question.
Arjun.
Thanks,
What's the
Swastik.
main-
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a privilege to be here, and thanks to the organizers for setting this session up and inviting
I
us.
think it's been
You have an awesome panel here.
Gone a bit more mainstream. I don't know if
So
just
let me
in the
kick off with
actually
something
in,
I've
like,
been
getting
advised is
customers.
not very smart thing to do
and
with
then,
audiences
like,
at
again,
4
another
p.m.
theme, perhaps. And then
or
the next
4:30,
question. So
an
we
hour
start with the
before the drinks
controversial stuff, is what
session
you think is
begins.
not
But
working.
let me ask a few questions.
What you
Can I
see
ask for a
happening
show of
that's
hands? How many people believe in the audience that big data is one of the top three
General
transformational trends that
business.
we
they mostly
see
work in
in the
They're
world
all
today?
MBAs.
MBAs, oh
Yeah.
God. But they'd all work in London in the finance sector. One
I'd
Do you
say
guys know
about
what this
50%,
institution
right?
is?
Okay.
You do.
Well, I
We'll do
now,
something
'cause we
about
just
that.
did-
It's the Harvard
How
School.
many
for
of you feel
Yeah,
that
it is. It
the
is
application
one of the
of big
toughest business
data
schools
in
to
your
get into.
business, in your life,
So
and
everyone
getting
here is
out
either
of
in
it
financial services
is
or
complex,
Is your
is
mate an
difficult,
alumni?
Hi.
is challenging.
Yes.
Sorry, Ravi.
Ravi.
Chance to speak to you properly.
Put him on.
I see more hands on this one.
Hi,
Okay.
Chris Evans.
Hi, Chris.
Hi
Nice
there.
to meet you. Thanks for
How
being
many
here
of
for
you are
last
worried
No, not at all.
that
Not at all. Well, I haven't done it
you
yet.
as
No.
individuals, the organizations that
Never know
you
what
run
might
and
happen.
work in, will actually have to change
Yes, we did,
dramatically, and you
yeah.
don't
Yeah,
have
no,
the
been
talent
all through.
or the
Yeah, yeah,
tools
Pity we had to
to
miss it.
embrace
This-
this big data
turning out to
change
be
that
a
is
very nice
happening.
speech.
And
It's
you,
turning
you
out to be a
still
very
trying to figure
nice
out how to
speech.
do it.
Well, I'm going to leave you guys to it.
Very
Right.
confident
So this
audience here. I only see 10 hands.
It's running about 6 or 7.
Okay. Well, that's a good way to
Time will
kick
go
off this session. And
time
what
will
I
go
thought
on?
we would do is try to cover these three broad themes.
Yeah, sure.
We have some, very, very powerful panelists here. So if you look at the set of people we have here,
Questions?
Rex comes from a company which has really shown how big data
David told. Yeah.
can be leveraged in a customer context to drive tremendous operational change and business change for companies, right? If you look at Jeffrey, he comes from a company which has institutionalized universal information in a very, very different way. And if you look at Srikanth, he's one of the early innovators who actually figured out that this was happening
So
and
then
helped
that's
companies
the main challenge. And then
apply
a lot
all
of
this
the
stuff in
discussion
their
this year has
business.
been around collaboration.
So very, very
or
diverse
it's
experiences,
collaborating.
but all
So
sort
I
of
guess if you work with banks,
attesting
then
to
you
the
necessarily
same,
have to run a business. So
same
maybe with you it would be more like
phenomenon
as I
that is
mentioned before,
happening in the
kind of,
world.
if you-
So the way I'm sort of looking at this is,
it's
let's
always-
talk a little
if
bit
it was
about
just a question of you getting more clients and then
why is
that
big
just
data
rolls.
so powerful? Why is it so
the other
topical?
end
What
of
are
the
some of the big
spectrum,
things that are happening there? And I'm going to ask the
big
panelists to
investment from a big
draw
firm.
from their own experiences and talk about some examples, some
But
passionate
if you
projects that they've been involved in which
kind of
attest
open
to
it
that.
up
And I think that'll give you a
firms,
flavor of what the future holds, and will be in line with the theme of
And
today's
then
conference
maybe one more for
about
you
the
is
age of innovation.
There's still obviously
The second aspect is really
threat, right?
where
So
do they
who's
see challenges
that
in organizations being able to apply this
wiped out
in a real
by
way?
the new players.
Is it
mean, the new-
organizationally
Yes,
difficult
new
because
incumbents,
of
the
No,
startups.
so they're like banks,
institutions,
asset
governance,
managers, whatever. The current
complexity of
incumbents will be
data,
wiped out.
too much
If
technology?
that's in the
What are the
cards, 'cause
issues that they
there's
see?
been
And then finally,
started by-
I'll ask for
oh,
some
it's
advice
kind of
from them on
disruption to already
how they
operate
recommend that this
roles.
journey,
It's
and it is going to be a
disruption, but really
journey,
on, like,
is
how they treat the
going to be
customer, and it's
traversed,
now.
and what are some of
So
the
that's
themes
another
that they believe are
question.
essential
And then perhaps
to focus
maybe
on
we can
as we
bring
look
in
forward.
Sort of if you
So let me kick off by
the main differences
asking the
are you
panelists
work
to
both
spend
here
maybe
and in
2-3
India, so
minutes
maybe
with
you
their
can point in
thoughts,
what the
and
differences are, what you're learning
then
from
we'll
here,
sort of
what
proceed
you
along
think
that.
about
Rex, you want to start first? Yes.
So 10 years ago, a couple of months
So it
ago,
helps
10
that
years
I'm not
ago,
a banker.
I started
So
working
I actually built
in
wireless
this
networks all
very
my life before I decided to set
disaggregated
up
big
a
data
payment system.
field. I'd been sort of playing around on the edges.
What I can talk about
but
is what
I
happens in
was
emerging markets.
a senior economist at
Since I
that
spent a
stage
good
at
part of my
Coles
working
Myer,
life
which is
here,
Wesfarmers.
so I
For anyone who knows that, they're a very large
worked closely
retailer
with
in
the
Australia,
banks,
as is
we work
anything
with
in
the
Australia.
FCA.
There tends to be 2
we
or
have a
3
slightly
major
contrarian point of
players.
view, in
And
terms of
Coles Myer at the
people
time,
dying.
they just constructed a data warehouse.
better. Contrarian view
there-
means I just
there
have
was
to
15
watch you
They're
guys
all-
argue.
they've been trying to kill themselves long enough.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, based on all the businesses
Some
that
will
they owned.
disappear if they don't.
And they
if they
decided
don't
to bring it all together into one spot and let us mine it.
I mean, that will happen.
I always think about that
So,
because it's now a decade
one of the
ago
things that I
from the
keep
time
saying
that I started
is
working on that.
banks are
And at that
conservative,
time,
but they're not
it was
stupid,
10 years
so they're
after
smart people.
Dunnhumby
They know what they
started
need to
working
collaborate.
with Tesco.
So they will.
Originally,
That's why
where
companies
they
like us exist,
came up the
because
famous
we
line that was given to Clive Humby after he did his
like
analysis
an alternate SWIFT
on
network.
really 12 weeks worth of Tesco data for
these
one
things
region
require
using a
collaboration.
486,
Yeah,
a 1%,
absolutely. You're a
2%
disruptive play
sample,
against
when they were
SWIFT
told,
and the
you've told me
traditional
more about my
models.
customers in that project
Chi
than I've
Axis
seen in
becoming-
20 years.
is a disruptive
But
play.
you look at
against
that
the extreme.
development over those two
yeah,
periods,
I'm happy
10
to
years
go
to when
back.
I was starting to work on it
I
back
mean, we're
then, you
rolling
can
out
see
BBVA's
15% of the
digital strategy
economy
globally right now.
line by line.
That brings in all the
Right?
emerging
You never knew who